This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about Ikiru from 1952, directed by Akira Kurosawa. The tagline, RJ, for this film. A big story of a little man which will grip your soul.
That guy, whatever person wrote that, is really swinging for the fences, eh?
Kenji Watanabe is a middle-aged man who has worked in the same monotonous bureaucratic position for decades. Learning he has cancer, he starts to look for the meaning of his life.
Have you found the meaning of your life yet, Jarrett?
You're looking at it right now, buddy.
Oof. Oof.
I'll be singing a mournful song soon.
I'll sing Danny Boy at your memoriam.
Oh, Danny Boy.
He made a park one day. What a great guy.
A podcast park of the imagination for children all around the world. That's my legacy.
Even better.
So Akira is a movie I watched for the very first time not that long ago.
Oh, yeah, like 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, it was kind of like, again, part of the, have we started the podcast at that point? I'm not even sure anymore.
It was like 3.5 years ago, because
probably right around that same time.
I noticed when I watched Phantasm, I think it was a month before we started the podcast.
It was actually the beginning of the year in which we began the podcast. So At the time, I was just probably knocking off the big movies I had never seen before. Actually, there's a few of these. Actually, it's interesting. A lot of Ebert great movies, because I watched this, then I watched Baraka, and then I watched Through a Glass Darkly, Ivan's Childhood, and topped that off with a little I Shot Jesse James.
So were you just getting ready for Criterion movies?
I think I was just probably going through a pile of Criterion DVDs and Blu-rays that I hadn't watched. Oh, look at that, Fat Girl.
That's how soon is Fat Girl? Like 2 months from us? 3 months?
Something like that. Anyway, that's another kettle of fish. So sure. I had never seen this movie. I just knew it by its reputation. You have guys like Roger Ebert saying that this is Kurosawa's best movie, even above Seven Samurai.
What does he know?
Well, he's dead.
Okay. Sure.
So I went into this movie kind of knowing it's it's got this sad looking old man on the front. Mm-hmm. And he's on a swing set. And I'd seen like bits and pieces of clips here and there of these iconic moments of Ikiru. But I was just kind of like, I don't know, what's this whole thing about? And so, what is this movie about? This is my second watch, and we'll get there. Mm-hmm. We have a voiceover narration.
Yeah, I was surprised by that, to be honest. It's used sparingly, I would say.
Yeah, it's like only really when he's in the office at his desk that you actually get that introduction. And they really lay it on thick. They really tell you about this guy and how he's done nothing. He is a loser. He's just been asleep at the switch his whole life. And like, look at him. He just stamps those papers, files things, and he's just surrounded by his coworkers that are all kind of like, when's this guy going to retire? When am I going to get my shot to be the top dog in the office to rubber stamp things, and people come to me for things all the time? I wonder if the people who think this actually have ever had that position in their life where they're constantly being pestered about things, and how soul-crushing that actually is. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I think it's true.
So this movie opens up with this kind of group of mothers who are very concerned about this culvert by their home. It's this mosquito-infested bog of water that they want something done with. They're like, what is this? This is disgusting. We're post-war Japan. We're in recovery. We want this solved. And of course, we get kind of a play out of how you go to one department and then you get passed on to another department, to another department, to another department, to another department, because nobody really wants to handle anything because it's work. You get paid. You get paid the same no matter what you do. Anything you do, if you have to make a phone call for somebody, that can make more phone calls for you.
Well, Jared, I don't know how you do work, but if you can minimize the amount you have to do anything, is probably preferred, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So this process goes down. These
Sure.
women are getting the runaround, going desk to desk, being moved to another department. Because it's always like how creative a bureaucrat can be. This is like the measure of like their creative energy and what they can do, is how to like minimize their workload and shift that load to somebody else potentially, even if it's temporarily. Because you can, because it's like, who can I think of that I could send you to instead of me? That's the sign of a true success story in government, I suppose, or any
100%.
any workplace really has unfortunately turned to this. And I don't know when this began. If this is sort of like a problem of the last 100 years or so. But yeah, this is a prime example of that here, and even in post-war Japan, 1952, they've already got they're right back to getting things running real smooth by doing nothing.
I thought the same thing. Like what you're saying. You're like, has this always been a thing? And I was like, well, this is 60 years ago now, and giving us the same runaround they are today, Jer.
Well, I mean,
that dang government.
Yeah, I mean, the one movie that popped into my mind a few times watching this was Il Posto.
Oh yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah, it's all about the soul-crushing reality of life. And but this one definitely goes down that more humanist, positive note of trying to leave something behind. Where El Posto seemed a lot more resigned to like, I guess, shrugging your shoulders and sliding into that desk,
sliding into those DMs.
Into those DMs.
Kids really say that a lot now, right?
They do, don't they?
Yeah.
So these women, they're pissed. Pissed off. They're getting because they're getting the runaround. They just want this should be very simple. Who do they have to talk to like petition to get this done? And nobody can actually answer this question, or no one wants to. But of course they go, whoa! They actually are about to storm out, and this is like upsets them because people are supposed to just kind of go along with this and be like, yeah, okay. But they're mad and they're kind of like startled by this. But they're like, well, there's nothing we can do. If you could put something in writing, we can give it to the section chief, but he's away right now, which is very unusual. And it's like, where is the section chief? He's never sick. In fact, one more month and he would have been 30 days without a single sick day.
30 like consecutive work days? Because that's not that impressive.
No?
Well, I mean, when was the last time you took a sick day?
Not this year. Not this calendar year.
Yeah, so you're sitting at like 90 days of without a sick day.
Wow, and now we're all on sick days.
Well, exactly. I mean, maybe in the 50s, that Japanese healthcare system, more people were permitted sick days, but
we don't know. He's not anymore. He's not going to take that. He's not going to bite. He's not weak. He doesn't need to.
Well, he's a mummy. He just putts around.
That's right. So
that's all he does.
We find Watanabe. He's in the doctor's office, and we get this scene that I think is like really, really well done, where there's this guy. He's just like chatting up with people in the waiting room and talking about how he's got this upset stomach, and starts like laying out to him like, oh man, the worst than that guy that went in there, they say he's got ulcers, but he doesn't have ulcers. That guy's a goner. And he lays out everything that Watanabe's going to be told by his doctor here in like 5 minutes. And it's kind of like, is this a real thing? Is like doctors just going to lie to you? And like, oh no, it's fine. It's nothing much we can do. And then like there's like they really rack it up the drama here, where like the one doctor refuses to turn around and even look him in the eye, and the nurse looks and she won't look at him, and the music is there. Every beat is driven into you because there's everything that the doctor says, because of what he was told by some guy in a waiting room. He knows the real meaning of it. He knows that he's got the big C in his guts.
The big what? Sorry?
The Big C.
Oh, okay.
Remember that?
Yeah, I was really... Yeah, we watched a little bit of it, and it got real fucking nuts in it, and we were like, what is this show? And then we stopped watching. But I was really confused by that, too. I was like, what is this world where doctors just outright lie to people? I was like, I don't doubt that it happened. It's just, I've never seen that before, so confusing, to say the least.
So we get this next kind of great piece of filmmaking where Watanabe, he's left the doctor's office and there's no sound. and he's just walking down the street. And then suddenly, as he's about to cross the street, sound comes blaring back as a truck comes driving by, and suddenly all these vehicles keep whirling by, because that really communicates the weight, the response a person would have, probably, I would guess, or actually, in fact, probably to any bad news. When people hear something bad that's like outside of their control, it's like the world just ceases to exist, and it makes them kind of fall into this moment of self-reflection, and it drowns out everything. So it's like that. I thought was pretty well done.
Yeah. I agree.
And actually, even earlier on too, like all the scenes, like in the office, the camera's got moving around these piles of paper. It's making that office as kinetic as possible, just from camera work, I guess.
I really liked those huge stacks of papers in the office. I thought that was a neat little detail, Jarrett.
And actually, just thinking about too, there's the other nice little bit with the young woman that's in the office who is laughing to herself, and which of course is not the order of the day here in this office. She reads a thing about how, if one of us wasn't here, no one would miss us. And it's like everyone kind of looks at one another, and then they look back down and go back to work, because ain't that the truth though?
Well, I don't know, man. I mean, I left my job for 3 weeks here. No one's noticed. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, pretty much.
No. Oh, so it's everybody.
It's everybody.
Oh, I gotcha.
So
I gotcha.
Watanabe, he goes home in the dark, sits in his son's room that he lives in with his wife, and of course, while he's just sitting there, probably, I guess, waiting to tell his son the bad news, his son and wife return, and they're just talking very callously and openly, like almost like something out of Tokyo Story, about when's that old man going to leave us that money? We could take that once his pension's up and stuff like that, buy that new house, get out of this dumpy old Japanese house. It's so cold and drafty. And then, of course, they have no idea if he's overheard what he's just said. They never actually say one way or another. But he just kind of gets up and leaves because he probably doesn't want to actually tell his son about what's going on. And, of course, it's like, what's that all about? That's kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, his son, there's some issues there, Jarrett. You know?
Oh, there's some issues there. So, Watanabe, he's going to try to, figure shit out. He's going to, one of the things is like, well, I guess I might as well start drinking, amongst other things.
What else are you going to do?
No. He meets a pal at the bar, hears the story, and he's like, hey, if you want to party, you want to do it right, I'll show you a good time. So they go carousing. They go to all these clubs, trying to meet some ladies. They go, go to a song and dance man playing the piano. And he really brings down the place with his own rendition of this old song from the 19-teens, as the subtitles tell us. Because you're like, well, that's like 100 years ago. But when this movie was made, that's only like just over 30. So it's not like, it'd be like us talking about the 70s.
I was gonna say it'd be talking about like Billy Idol almost. White Wedding, Jarrett. You ever heard of that song? So it's
just
not
like
that strange at
just
all.
like that. Did you know, RJ, that there was DreamWorks was thinking about doing an American remake of Ikiru starring coronavirus star Tom Hanks?
I mean, who's to say that they won't still?
Well, it was apparently announced in 2004 or something like that, and here we are. We've dodged that bullet so far.
Who's to say it wouldn't be the best movie ever made? So
we get a little bit of flashback action. Okay. We get to see what the young adventures of Watanabe was when his wife died. It's hilarious. And his young son, who's like, they're following behind the casket, I guess, as they go, I guess, to the crematorium or graveyard. And they're like, don't let mommy get away. It's very funny. I don't know.
Where is she going to get away to?
Exactly. Stupid kid. We get introduced to Watanabe's brother, the uncle, who I will say at the end of this movie, like it was like unintentional hilarity.
In what way?
Okay, well, just remind me about it. We'll get there as we do this recap.
Okay.
So he gets loaded, and of course he spends the night out. Doesn't know where he is, and then he's recovering, and he runs into the girl from the office that he hasn't seen for a while because he's just been taking time off, off of work, getting better. And they start hanging out and having a good time. And he really enjoys, like, maybe because the first guy he was with was like a man like half his age, but he could relate to, but it was like kind of emptiness, hanging, like trying to like, oh, we're going to like have sex with these two women. And it's like, yeah, that seems like a great, fun idea. This is going to be wonderful. So that doesn't really capitalize on that moment. But then he meets the young woman, and he's like, oh, I'm just like being somebody so youthful, filled with life, makes me feel alive myself, takes my mind off of my troubles. But he keeps pushing it, and he brings her back to the house, and everyone's like, whoa, 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 what's this guy doing? He's got this younger lady now. And, this is very scandalous. And it's like, man, this guy's just a horn dog.
Well, I mean, depends on how you define that, Jarrett.
All depends. I do. So this is like kind of like where we set up the thing with the uncle saying like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly what he's doing," and it's like that's just what you'd be doing, says his wife. And then of course, the son has a confrontation because he's like now he's very concerned about this. He's like, "Hey, you're spending all this money on this dame."
Well, he doesn't. There's a question about the inheritance, Jarrett.
Of course, it's like there's always worry about the inheritance.
Well, and like, I mean, he makes a good point. He says, you go out and hit up these ladies. That's all well and good. But our inheritance is at stake here. He says, do you want your grandkids to get nothing?
Mm-hmm.
Do you? And then you say, huh, maybe. Maybe.
Neither here nor there for this guy. He wants that money.
Yeah.
So anyway, girl's getting a little creeped out by this old guy. They have nothing to talk about, and he tries to explain, stuttering along, because he hasn't really had to be challenged on anything. He just has kind of gone through life, adjusting in his glasses, looking up and down, looking over details of documents, stamping them, going home, probably eating a bowl of rice, a little bit of soy sauce on that, going to sleep. That's probably it for him. But, finally he returns to the office after having a blowout with the son and just being like, well, I guess it's back to fucking work for me. I've got nothing to do. And then right on the top of that pile of work he's got to do, he takes a look at it. It's this application to build a park, take care of this culvert thing. He's like, this is it. This is the thing I'm going to do. And he's all full of piss and vinegar. He's going to get this done. Everyone's like, whoa, slow down there. And then the movie kind of does a quick little... This is about the first hour and a half of the movie, because this movie is 2 hours, 20 minutes. We transition to his funeral. He's fucking dead.
Well, the narrator declares, our protagonist has died.
Yep.
Like an hour in, and I went, whoa.
And then...
What now?
And then the next 40 minutes... are his wake, where we get to watch a room full of bureaucrats get more and more intoxicated rapidly, like fucking shit-faced, like crawling on their hands and knees. Oh, what a sloppy mess. As all these people, they're all starting to like trying to figure out what was going on back there and like filling all the gaps. And you find out there's the deputy mayor who's there, who's been taking credit for building this park. And these newspaper men, they're saying, "Are you really sure you single-handedly built this thing? We've been hearing around the park that this Watanabe guy was really there, but he didn't take any credit for it. Are you taking credit for something you did?" Oh, preposterous! Of course not. And everyone's of course sucking up to this guy because the bureaucracy. And then he leaves. And then of course they're talking more and more. And as they sound out all this stuff, they start realizing, hey, wait a minute, I think he did know he had cancer. I'm very confident. He said something very interesting, and they play this out for a while. I actually really I enjoy the ridiculousness of the way that this is done.
I do too, because it really sticks it to the son, because the son's such a piece of shit.
He's just having to sit there and listen to this.
Well, yeah, but it's like it's deserved though, because he was such an asshole. And then he's like, nah. He's like, listen, if my dad had cancer, I would have known about it. And they're like, well, I mean, he did say he's got nothing to live for. He's going to die soon, and this is all he has left. So maybe he knew.
Maybe.
They do really ham it up.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of I don't know if you call this melodrama, but it's definitely some of that going on. I don't know. They heap it on. The mothers come to pay respects, and they start weeping. They find his hat miraculously appears from the police officer who comes, who feels really bad for not like checking on what he thought was an old rummy passed out on the swings.
What would you have thought if you saw an old guy on a swing?
I'd run away. It's probably a vampire.
What kind of vampire, though? The sexual one or the other kind?
A little bit of both.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
So we got a sounding board. The audience becomes a sounding board. Listen to these people realize, oh, man, what have we done with our lives? We're never going to let this happen ourselves. We're going to do it all. And then someone goes like, bullshit. No, you're not. Like, it takes an exceptional person to do any of the things that he did. And which is true. And we also get the one thing that probably is like the most ridiculous thing in this whole movie is when the gangsters show up, the Yakuza, and they have a stare down.
Yeah.
In that flashback, just show, because like the lead guy, he showed up, he looked him in the eyes, and he just looked at him and went, oh man, I can't convince this dude. He's got too steely of a resolve. Like, but they don't say it, but it's just like it's very silly.
Well, it's like to show that it's like he had no regard for his own well-being, and it's because the guy's like, "Do you even respect your own life?" And he goes, "No." And then it's like, "Oh shit, he really didn't have anything to live for." Yeah. And you're like, "All right."
So after hearing all this, the son is just like, oh my God, I'm a fucking idiot. And my favorite is when the uncle comes to the back room. He's like, hey, I don't think that was really his girlfriend after all. I like thought it's like so stupid. I'm like, wow, he's really slow on the uptake. Like, because it's like at that moment, it's just like the weirdest thing. I'm like, is this supposed to be funny or like that's his realization? But like, you're like, this guy's such a loser. Like he's so dumb. But I mean, that's family sometimes.
It's just people in general, you know.
But we do get the in this whole like period, we get the thing where the police officers talks about the singing. And we get that sequence, which is very affecting.
Yep.
And then we go back to like, hey, everything's going to work out great. All these bureaucrats, they're going to go back to their offices, and they're really going to like change society.
Do they?
Nope. No, they don't. They go
right.
What
about the one guy?
The one guy, he gets his promotion. He gets he's right back there stamping, and it's already begun. And like they all like the one guy does stand up. He's like, hey, and then they all look at him with that like slow eye as they look up, and he goes, oh, and then he sits back down. The one guy who's like, you know, he's going to do it. He's going to change this thing, but it's not as easy as it looks. And we get a nice little coda of the children on the swings, activating the space. The users, as we talk about in urban planning, and the movie ends.
What happens then? Where does the sequel take us?
Ikiru 2?
Yeah. No Time to Die?
So RJ,
right.
What is it to live?
I think when you stay home and you don't interact with social settings, some would call that living. I would think. I prefer to repurpose my old leftovers into things like shepherd's pie. I'd say that's a good way to live. What about you?
Sounds good to me.
How do you live, Jared? What's if someone was like, show me how to live, my man, what would you do?
These are above my pay grade.
You don't know either.
No.
I don't think anybody knows, to be honest. Do you know what I mean?
No, most people don't. We live our small little lives, our small little problems, bouncing around. Maybe sometimes we play a little pachinko.
Little pachinko? I've never played a little pachinko.
No. Well, you get to learn all about it here.
What do you think it's all about?
This movie?
Just living? Yeah.
I think it's pretty straightforward. I think it's
no hidden messages?
No.
Okay.
Nothing at all. It's all out there. So I mean, this movie definitely, I feel, belongs to the trilogy I've been talking about. This Umberto D, Tokyo Story, Ikiru.
Yeah, I agree.
They're kind of like what happens in the later stages of your life. This one's more along the lines of like Wild Strawberries, where it's a man who's like reflecting on his life, but this one's because he's got a theoretical or metaphorical gun to his head, like as in he knows his time is short. He thinks he has a year. He doesn't even have that, and he pushes and he pushes and he pushes to get his vision accomplished. It's an undertaking.
It definitely is. It's kind of like what we're doing right now.
That's right.
We're just pushing and pushing, trying to get it all done.
Get it all through there. But yeah, no, like it's what can you say about Ikiru? It's a very good movie.
Sure. Yes, it is. I agree.
I know some people who like talk about wailing and weeping watching this movie. It breaks them. I'm not there. I'm not there with people. I would say that Umberto D, just because of that goddamn dog, gets me more for whatever reason. Like that stuff, it's just as manipulative as anything in this movie too. But that's like my thing. That's the one getting me. I don't know if Takashi Shimura's eyes and sad face get me the same way.
Yeah.
Or there's a subtle simplicity to the Tokyo Story tale where it's just like there's no big drama to it. The death is off camera, which is also in this too. Like you don't actually see him expire and die, but it's a bit more of an exciting movie. I think there is like an American quality to Ikiru that Kurosawa has always been accused of by, I think, his like Japanese audiences, that his stuff was too American, and like Ozu is very Japanese in storytelling. Like I don't know. I think this movie is like it's his most well regarded movie. Like it's in there in the conversation with Seven Samurai and whatever else you want to throw in there for everyone's preferences, Rashomon or Ran and stuff like that.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, this is like it's not an action set piece. Like it is a drama, which he isn't. Like his most talked about things are all genre pieces, and this is it's a drama. As its genre, and doesn't like have any like it's got no samurais, Western influences or anything like that. It's just a simple story. Apparently, if I recall, is based on a novella.
Ikiru?
Yeah.
Sure. I would believe you if you said it was.
Well,
we're not an information podcast, so we can't comment.
Tolstoy's The Death of Ivan Ilyich.
Tolstoy. That fucking guy. Have you ever read any Tolstoy? I have.
Have I?
Yeah, so moving right along. I don't know about this Americanized thing. I mean, I understand it, but I don't really feel like that when I watch Kurosawa movies. I feel like Kurosawa just made good movies, and maybe they're fast-paced, and they come at you real good, but never like bummed me out or anything like that. I wasn't ever watching it being like, man, this is American. This is like Face Off with John Woo. You know what I mean, Jer? He doesn't know, but that's okay. So, Ikiru, you were mentioning, I think Umberto D and like Tokyo Story. I feel the same way, where I think those ones had a little bit more weight to them. Umberto D probably because of that nice little doggo. I also think like Tokyo Story is maybe maybe the sadder one because you really feel it, like the kids being ungrateful. But I think like Akiru still like I really liked it. I think it's great. It is a sad show, but I think those other two are sadder for my own personal life because I get with them a little bit more. Even though when we watched Tokyo Story, I was like, well, it's not that sad. But watching this one now, it's like, yeah, I think Tokyo Story might have a little bit more sadness to it.
Yeah, because I mean, I find that the father and son dynamic in this, it seems like it just comes down to like shitty communication from everybody.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think that's all it is. And even like you don't get it a ton. Like you do see when he's not with the son, he's talking about like he's just like, yeah, my son's just not really a good guy. He doesn't really care, and I don't feel like I have a son no more. And then you're like, oh shit, that's sad.
This park is my son.
The park is my son now. And he's like, and you, this lady, you are also my son now. And she's like, all right, okay, whatever. But yeah, no, I think those other two are sadder. But Akira is a pretty sad show, and I do think it's good stuff. It's a good show. I do like how I just like Kurosawa movies in general. Like maybe they are Americanized. Maybe that's why I like them. The American Sniper version of Japanese cinema.
Yeah, I have no idea if the American criticism even exists. I know at one point it did by like some critics, but most people don't care like at all.
Yeah. No, and I find that like I don't know. I find it. I get it, but at the same time, it's like I wouldn't say that. I like Kurosawa for. I don't know. I just think he makes real smooth movies. Like even this one too. Like the narrator, when the movie started and we had the narrator, I was like, huh. I was like, this movie's fucking narrated. I was like, what's that about? But then it doesn't come up again until like that change in story where you're like, well, our protagonist died, and I was like, oh shit. And then I think it really gets into like fine artisanal filmmaking at that point where it's all these guys talking and they're like, okay, listen, they're like, he didn't do that much to make this part. Is like everyone's giving him credit. Like now they're like, but he didn't really do that much. And then they'll be like, and I'll tell you why. And then it'll do like a little flashback and it'll cut to like someone's memory, but it actually shows that he did do a lot. And then it was like, oh, look how ironic it is, Jared. And then like you do get all those people who do champion him and they're like, no, they're like, he did way more than anyone else. And people like still, they're just like, no, he didn't. Come on. But so I think it's a nice little back and forth they do right there. So I liked that quite a bit. Oh, and one thing in terms of the sadness, you know what is the saddest shit ever is when the son calls the dad and he's going to walk up the stairs, and then the son's like, oh, can you lock the door? All right, see you later. And then it cuts back to the dad on the stairs and he's just kind of standing there. Just real sad. Just real goddamn sad, Jarrett. I was like, ooh, shit. I was like, that's some sad stuff right there. Some real sad stuff. That's some Blade 2 level of hitting you in the feels. If you know what I mean. These are similar movies, right?
So you say.
I could compare anything to Blade 2 if I try hard enough. So you never asked, but I think Ikiru is a pretty good show.
Yeah.
Pretty good show, Jer. It's got a nice little somber ending, and it's a little long.
Yeah.
At 2:20, it's a little long.
The kind of middle bit where he's like living life with his writer drunk pal.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff I do kind of and I remember watching it initially being like, I'm gonna check what's happening in the news right now.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this before, and it's like there's nothing like that engaging with that stuff. Like it's just kind of like antics, and it's like, okay, Kurosawa's shooting the shit out of this stuff though. He's making these clubs seem very exciting and a lot of fun. People moving through the spaces. It's kind of cool seeing 1950s because it's contemporary too. That's like one thing when I was talking about genre. I guess like the one thing to mention too is like you either have high and low as sort of like these genre points that are like contemporary films. This is a movie that is set in 1952 Japan, and it's just about a guy who works in an office, and there's no like plot, there's no hitman. It's just, hey, this is as close to Ozu that he gets, I guess, as far as like depicting like a guy doing his thing.
There's no hitman.
There's not that I noticed, unless you watched a different cut.
Well, remember when John Woo showed up, and then there was that book that was hollowed out, and there was a gun in it,
right?
And the gun had cancer. That
was Parabellum, I think, or something.
Oh, I think Parabellum means to live, or something like that too. Rough translation.
And I think it's also Tolstoy.
Oh, who Tolstoy? More like Michael Cera, am I right? I don't know where that came from.
I don't know.
Was he in a movie where he played Tolstoy, or was that like Anton Yelchin? Tolstoy. I'll look into old Leo here, the Russian man. Maybe it was Anton Yelchin.
So yeah, this movie, I feel, does run on the long side.
A little long? Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, perhaps people like I've seen Masterpiece lobbed out there.
Some would say. I mean, I think that's fine too, if people want to call it that.
I mean, I don't know.
I
don't know where you start trimming a masterpiece or anything like that. But
what would you call a masterpiece?
Well, I mean, I think I said Tokyo Story was, but
well, that's fine.
Passion of Joan of Arc.
Passion of the Christ. Did you say?
Nope.
Because I agree with you 100%.
No,
100%.
You got any other things you want to talk about with Ikiru? You got some notes, don't you?
A lot of them are things I wanted to take screenshots of, but Criterion Channel was down.
Yeah, there was a lot of like, I think, very like RJ-esque quotes that were popping up in this bad boy, and now you're full of it.
Here's a look behind the glass at how the sausage is made. I just write timestamps and then one word. So here's some of the things I wanted to screenshot: corpse, death, diarrhea, face, creeps, sad face, paper. So when I make these notes, I don't write anything more. So sometimes when I look back at it, I'm like, I don't really know what I meant by that. What does diarrhea mean?
Well, I think that's like what you get when you have the stomach cancer.
Diarrhea. Of course it is. Of course it is. So that's the majority of my notes with my timestamps, but I can't access those at the moment, and that's too bad. So no, I think it's a good show. I like it. As I say, it's a good show. I do think since it's just so recent, I think Tokyo Story is a little bit sadder, but that old man climbing up the stairs, sad stuff. And I do think it's pretty fine artisanal film crafting, the way that after he dies, the way it's kind of put together and all summarized, even if like the Yakuza thing is a little bit silly,
silly,
which it is. Even with that in case, I do think that all that latter day stuff is done pretty well.
Yeah, I don't know how much that adds to the story.
Well, it's like
he's so that's how much he didn't care, and it's just like in another movie, in another film, this would make sense, but it's just like out of nowhere. There's the guy, he's got the scar along his mouth and the sunglasses, the tufts, and you're like, because I'm like, because I started hearing the Battles Without Honor music, which is amazing, but I was just thinking of that as he walked away.
Did you say
Battles Without
Blade 2 soundtrack? That is amazing.
Battles Without Honor and Humanity. The theme music of that popped in my mind, and I was like, interesting. So
I gotcha.
So we got a little bit of genre thrown in there just to show, hey, it's the real heroes who get like kids like playground equipment put in. They're the real heroes. It's not the cops. It's not the guys fighting the Yakuza. It's the guy who can stand down eye to eye and give him that death gaze because he's like, I got nothing to lose. I'm dying.
Well, what if you had nothing to lose, Jarrett? What would be your like dying throw?
I don't know. What a random thing.
Well, I think I just beaten you to the punch here because usually you send off on something.
Yeah,
like that,
exactly.
but,
that's your job.
I realize that, but how do you like when the tables have been turned, my friend? Yakuza style.
I don't like it at all.
That's what the Yakuza is known for, right?
So you want to hear about some real chuds? They who hate Ikiru.
Sure. Do you want me to read the first two lowest ratings for these?
Okay.
There's 2 1-stars. One's from H Bull. Chato de necesario plat idiota y cheo de gente fia.
Mm-hmm.
That's from H Bull. And then Gatzin de Mengarung said, bo boy, sia tat plata mort os ariti. So I just thought I would hit you with those since I know you're not one of those foreign speakers. I speak many languages, so.
I'm Mooney, 1 star.
Sure.
Out of the many Kurosawa films I've watched and adored, Ikiru was really tedious. Not because I knew it was going to be a tearjerker, but the fact that it was too blunt for my liking. Somehow I felt this film lacked the empathy I needed to understand and comprehend the struggles of the main character. Kurosawa is known for his very tranquil-paced films, but Ikiru felt like a million years to finish watching. It was quite irritating to say the least. Perhaps I need a second viewing soon. But the Gondola no Uta song scene ruined me.
Okay.
I don't know how you could be ruined by that scene, but then also give the movie 1 star.
Yeah, their ratings are a little bit wacky, my man. There's only 13 5-star films, but I find it funny that they say that the movie was too blunt. But some of their 5-star films include The Matrix Reloaded and the Suspiria remake. So it's like blunt, hey, and Kill Bill 1. But not Kill Bill 2, Jer. I know you're not a fan of Kill Bill 2, but
yeah.
What are you going to do? Half-star films include The Mummy with Tom Cruise, Insidious 2, and Pearl Harbor, directed by Michael Bay. So,
BV, 1 star.
Mm-hmm.
How ironic. A film all about loving life makes me want to die.
Crazy. What a crazy kook, this person. One of their favorite films is Blade Runner 2049. What are you gonna do? Portrait of a Lady on Fire, they gave 5 stars. Very I'm starting to get hate for that movie just because of the love for it.
Because you're a contrarian.
Some would say that. Sure. 5-star films include Blade Runner 2049, Roma, Cleo from 5 to 7, Call Me By Your Name, La La Land, X-Men First Class.
Next up, McLovin, 1.5 star.
Ooh, how'd that guy get in there with that name?
This is exactly like Breaking Bad with a fucking children park instead of drugs.
I don't think it is at all.
Well, he faces down gangsters.
Yeah.
I win. Don't you remember that part when he says that in the movie?
I just remember when the old Japanese man dying of cancer was like, I am the one who knocks.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, good job, Bryan Cranston. 5 stars to the Lego Movie, Phantom of the Opera, apparently. Life of Pi.
Which one? Which Phantom of the Opera?
Let's see this. Phantom of the Opera at the Royal Albert Hall 2011. So is that a live performance?
Probably. I don't know.
What else here? Jesus Camp. I don't know what that is.
Documentary.
Actually, some pretty good shows they have 5 stars here for, like Tremors. Okay. That's pretty good. Yeah. The Hurt Locker. Yeah, some of these are actually not bad movies. When Harry Met Sally, someone else gave that 5 stars. I'm not reading any of these, but they're just good shows like Unforgiven, Heat. Mm-hmm. They gave Straw Dogs 5 stars. I wouldn't give it 5 stars, but it's an okay show. Thin Blue Line. So, not bad movies to give 5 stars to. Let's look at these half-star films. Jarrett. Leaving Neverland, they gave 0.5 star. So I guess they think that Michael Jackson didn't rape all those people? Spice World, half a star. Dumb and Dumber, half a star. Oh, come on.
Preposterous.
Come on. So there you go.
Yeah, that's good enough.
Okay.
I was going to read Rich Pure Doom, but nah.
Rich Pure Doom? Favorite films are Dawn of the Dead, Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, Nashville, and Bridge on the River Kwai. You know?
Okay, well, I have to read this. I may end up having the lowest review for Ikiru on all of Letterboxd, but I gotta give it to you straight here. Ikiru absolutely sucks. It is an avalanche of sentiment anchored by a horrendous and annoying performance by Takashi Shimura. Man, if I had to look at Shimura and his wide-eyed sad face for one more minute, I was going to turn this thing off. It seemed to me like he had more than just stomach cancer. He could barely control his speaking or his facial contortions. Shimura is so hell-bent on begging for audience sympathy here, it's as though there's no faith in Kurosawa or the script. The ending scenes of politicians talking about Watanabe's life are endless and excruciating to endure. We get it. He was a good man who helped build a park. Does anybody care that he wasted the previous 30 years of public service doing absolutely nothing, and it took stomach cancer to finally kick him in the ass? The 1.5 stars are for the scenes toward the beginning, hanging out with the local drunk.
What's their issue with this, though? I don't really get it.
They didn't like it.
Oh. You know what else they didn't like at half stars? It's a mad world. The Big Chill. Contact. Tom Jones. Strange half-star films indeed, Jer.
Indeed. Some Criterions, too.
Yeah, I see that.
2 of those bad boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Any last thoughts you want to get out there before you're dying on that swing?
I don't have any intelligent things to say about movies. I think it's a good show.
Check it out.
Check it out. Uh-huh.
After the break, we go back to the bureaucratic life that we're always meant to do and shrug our shoulders and look down at our work.
What are we going to do then?
Wait for the stomach cancer.
Is it good stomach cancer or bad?
Is that like good Hodgkin's?
There's a good Hodgkin's. No